Welcome to This Explainer. Look, if you've ever poured your heart, sweat, and frankly, your hard-earned money into an orchard, you know the absolute heartbreak of waking up one morning, walking out there and finding your lush, green trees suddenly turning a sickly, pale yellow. It's terrifying, right? Leaves are dropping, branches look weak, and panic just immediately sets in. You want to save your livelihood and you want to do it right now, but what if your very first instinct to save them is actually the exact thing that will kill them? Well, let's figure this out together.
Here's a quick question for you. When you see a yellowing plant, what's your immediate reflex? For almost all of us, it's a mad dash to the agricultural supply store to grab a heavy bag of chemical fertilizer, like NPK or Urea, thinking, oh no, my plant is starving, I gotta feed it. But pouring chemical fertilizer on a suddenly yellowing plant, that might actually be the equivalent of throwing gasoline on a fire. We really need to pause and ask ourselves, is your plant actually starving for nutrients, or is it suffocating beneath the soil?
Section 1. Reading the leaves' language.
To stop guessing, we have to become fluent in what the leaves are trying to tell us. It's like a giant puzzle. When diagnosing yellow leaves, always pay attention to the pattern. If your soil is dry but the bottom older leaves are yellowing evenly, that's a classic nitrogen deficiency. If those bottom leaves are yellow but the veins stay distinctly green, you're looking at a magnesium deficiency. And if it's only the young leaves right at the very top turning yellow with green veins, yep, iron deficiency. Each of those needs a specific nutrient fix. But here's the real shocker. If the leaves are turning yellow simultaneously, drooping, feeling soft, and your soil is soggy or kind of smells like rotten eggs, that is root suffocation or hypoxia. In up to 80% of widespread yellowing cases, it is not a lack of food. Your plant is literally drowning.
Section 2. Greening or zinc deficiency. Now, before we rush in to treat those roots, we absolutely must rule out something far more sinister, especially if you're growing citrus. Citrus greening disease, which is caused by a bacteria transmitted by a tiny insect called the Asian citrus psyllid, presents a very distinct visual warning sign. Notice how the yellowing isn't uniform. It's patchy, it's mottled, and the veins are thick, swollen, and dark green. A huge red flag here is that these symptoms usually pop up randomly. You might just see one branch on the outside of the tree looking like this, while the rest of the tree looks totally fine.
And if you want the ultimate unfortunate confirmation of greening disease, just look at the fruit. When you slice it open, the core will be completely lopsided and asymmetrical. The seeds inside, they'll be brown, aborted, and rotten. The fruit will probably drop off early and taste terribly bitter. If your tree has this, I hate to say it, but there is no cure. It has to be uprooted and destroyed immediately so it doesn't spread like wildfire and infect your whole orchard.
But let's contrast that with a simple zinc deficiency. Zinc deficiency might also cause some yellowing between the veins, sure, but it usually appears uniformly across an entire field, or at least consistently all over the affected plants, not just randomly on one side of a single tree. Plus, zinc deficiency progresses incredibly slowly. A tree can actually survive for years with a zinc deficiency, whereas greening is an aggressive, fast-moving death sentence.
Section 3. The autopsy. Under the soil. Assuming we aren't dealing with greening, we need to stop looking at the canopy. The leaves are just the warning lights on the dashboard. The true lungs and heart of your plant are hidden underground. So let's dig in. This is exactly what a suffocating root looks like. When soil gets waterlogged, maybe from heavy rains or just overwatering, all those tiny crucial air pockets in the soil fill up with water. The roots instantly lose their oxygen. Think of the root system as a massive biological pump pushing water and nutrients up into the tree, and oxygen is its power source. Cut off the oxygen, the pump shuts down entirely. The roots literally suffocate and die. The outer bark peels right off, leaving this brown, rotting core. Your plant might be sitting on top of a mountain of nutrients, but it's starving to death because its pump is broken.
And to make matters worse, nature absolutely does not ignore weakness. When roots suffocate, they release these stress toxins into the soil. This is basically ringing a dinner bell for pathogens. The primary villain that sweeps in to cause root rot is a fungus called Fusarium solani. It's almost always accompanied by Phytophthora, which just accelerates the decay. And pests? Things like nematodes or root mealybugs, they chew tiny wounds into the roots, acting as open doors for these fungi to rush right in and finish the job.
Section 4. The chemical fertilizer mistake.
Okay, so now that we know the roots are suffocating and actively under attack, why did I say our first instinct to add chemical fertilizer is the worst possible thing we could do? Well, it all comes down to basic physics, specifically a little concept called reverse osmosis.
Think back to high school science class for a second. Water naturally wants to flow from an area of low salt concentration over to an area with high salt concentration just to balance things out. So here is the absolutely crucial point. Chemical fertilizers, things like NPK and urea, are essentially just incredibly potent mineral salts. When you dump a bag of those chemicals onto the dirt above a struggling plant, you instantly create an environment of massive salt concentration in the soil. But inside those weak, suffocating roots, the salt concentration is much, much lower. So according to the laws of physics, any remaining water is going to be forcefully sucked out of the dying roots and out into the salty soil. Instead of feeding your plant, you are literally dehydrating it from the inside out. You're burning its already gasping roots alive.
Section 5. The Tree Emergency Protocol.
When your plant is in the agricultural ER, you need a proven recovery plan. Here is how we save the patient. Step 1. You must prune away 30 to 50% of the canopy. And yes, that includes removing all the young fruit. Look, I know it hurts to chop back your tree, but the root system is dying. It physically cannot support a full canopy right now. By cutting it back, you're massively reducing the workload on whatever roots are left. Step 2. Grab a hoe and gently aerate the topsoil around the base. Expose that root collar and cut away all those black, rotten, stinky roots. You have got to get oxygen back down there. Step 3. Now that it can breathe again, apply a mild biological or chemical fungicide to sanitize the area and kill off the Fusarium and Phytophthora. Step 4. Wait about a week and then introduce a beneficial fungus, something like trichoderma, along with high-quality, well-rotted organic matter. You are essentially doing a total biological reboot, building a brand new, healthy root ecosystem entirely from scratch.
48. I want you to remember that number. That is the exact number of hours it takes for a root system submerged in waterlogged soil to lose 90% of its breathing capacity. Just 2 days of stagnant water can suffocate your entire crop. This isn't something you can wait on, it's an absolute emergency. And as you're performing this rescue, you need to avoid the 4 deadly sins of root care. First, as we just thoroughly covered, never apply chemical salts. Second, if you do use a harsh chemical fungicide to clean out the soil, do not immediately apply your beneficial probiotics like trichoderma right after. The chemicals will just kill the good guys too. Give it time to dissipate. Third, never pile soil way up high around the trunk to bury the root collar. That is literally where the tree breathes. And finally, those drainage ditches in your orchard, they are the lungs of your entire farm. If they get clogged, your trees drown. Keep them clear.
Section 6. Identifying rice diseases. While orchards suffer terribly from waterlogging, yellowing is a universal warning sign across agriculture. Let's pivot briefly to our rice farmers, because a sudden shift to bright yellow in a rice field signals a very specific threat. It's called early ripening yellow leaf disease, and it's caused by a fungus called Gonatophragmium. This fungus loves cool, shady areas, and it absolutely thrives when farmers get a little too heavy-handed with nitrogen fertilizer. It usually strikes right around 7 to 10 days before the rice actually blooms. First, you'll see tiny yellow spots, but then those quickly elongate into orange-yellow streaks running straight towards the tip of the leaf. If this hits early, before the grain actually fills out, the leaves are going to dry up and burn, which severely reduces your harvest. The treatment here requires specific fungicidal active ingredients like mancozeb or hexaconazole, and you need to apply them just before the crop fully blooms. Section 7. Organic root restoration. Returning to our recovering orchards. Once your plants are finally out of the ICU, they need gentle long-term rehabilitation. This is where organic fish emulsion becomes an absolute game changer. Unlike those harsh chemical salts that trigger reverse osmosis, cold-pressed organic fish emulsion provides pure, easily digestible nutrition. It's packed with 16 different amino acids that signal the plant to rapidly regenerate its cells and push out fresh, white root tips. It provides essential trace minerals, boron, calcium, magnesium, zinc, to get that canopy green again. And crucially, it boasts over 40% organic matter. This physically improves the soil structure over time, making it looser and much more oxygen-rich. Basically, it feeds the plant without shocking a weakened system.
So here is the exact application protocol to guarantee success. You really want to attack this problem from both ends. Dilute your fish emulsion at a ratio of 1 to 500 and water it directly into the soil around those recovering roots. Then dilute it just a bit more, say a 1 to 600 ratio, and spray it directly onto the underside of the leaves. The leaves will actually absorb the nutrients right through their stomata, their leaf pores, to keep the top half of the plant alive, while the root application rebuilds the foundation below.
Always do this in the cool hours of the early morning or late afternoon. Stick to this, and within 7 to 10 days, you'll start seeing fresh, white roots and healthy green shoots.
So we've journeyed from the initial heartbreak of seeing those yellow leaves, down into the hidden physics of suffocating roots, and finally laid out a biological protocol for total restoration. It all boils down to a choice. The next time you walk your fields and spot a sickly yellow leaf, what are you going to do? Will you blindly panic and spread chemical salts just hoping for a miracle? Or will you grab a trowel, dig down into the earth, check those roots, and act as the smart, intuitive doctor your soil desperately needs? The life of your farm literally depends on the answer. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. Now get out there and go check those roots.